and welcome to another episode of Pep Talk on the Joe Maxwell Show. I am your host, Joe Maxwell. Disadvantaged young people face a life sentence of poverty and exclusion, mostly within the Black community. Today we'll be talking about the challenges facing young people from low socioeconomic areas in the UK and abroad. Today I am joined by Sylvia Bradwell, who is a leadership and self-development coach for youths, as well as Desiree Joel Ad, who has an NGO targeted towards the youths. Hello, ladies.
Hi, Joe.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Honored to have you ladies, experienced ladies, talking about topics that is so close to heart and close to home. I know I've done a little bit of introduction, but I think what would be good is to give you guys an opportunity to talk a little bit about what you do, and then just to help our viewers to get to know you better, and perhaps you might be able to help somebody watching. So I'll pass on to you, Desiree.
So I run, as you said earlier, an NGO called iProtégé, and our focus is on helping young people and women, especially from disadvantaged backgrounds and African heritage, to kind of experience their life in a different way. It's also about giving them opportunities and a platform to do what they feel they can do within society to give back.
Brilliant. That must be a whole lot of work.
Yes.
To do, especially working with youth. It can't be easy.
It's a lot. There's a lot to it. There's a lot to it.
Well done.
Thank you.
Desiree. Over to you.
Hello, I am Sylvia Bradwell, and what I do is I have a company called Manzang Training. I provide personal and professional development programs for young people and professionals. The unique selling point of what I do is that I have packaged the Bantu life philosophy, which has nurtured outstanding African leaders such as Nelson Mandela, Kwame Nkrumah, Wangari Maathai, and so on, into a leadership program that can help every single person. And this is something that many of us Africans have not been able to do in the past, that we have overlooked what we have. And really, it's something that can help us, not only young people, but also professionals and parents.
So what you do is basically a package that helps you to sort of nurture them and teach them
how to become good leaders, how to achieve their goals, how to fulfill their potential, and really life lessons that will enable them to value other things than just material things.
In life, because most of the time I think the youths are more particular about material things.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Great, lovely. Thank you again, ladies, for
Thank you for having us.
Research has shown that the areas of greatest concentration of minority ethnic groups tend to be more deprived. Income poverty rates for white UK people across the country are similar. However, ethnic minority are on an average of 40% more likely than the white counterparts of people living in the same category. This issue is even higher in London, the north of England, and in the Midlands, where most minority groups are concentrated. We're about to find out whether or not this research is absolutely correct. So I'm going to pass over to you, Sylvie. What are your thoughts based on the reports?
Absolutely, the report is correct in the sense that it's a matter of public knowledge that in the areas such as Hackney and elsewhere where there is a good and big concentration of ethnic minorities, there are higher rates of poverty. However, what I think we also need to do is to go beyond the statistics and think about the deeper causes of this situation. And I think it's first of all historical, in the sense that Africans and other ethnic minorities have been usually disadvantaged in the UK. But the second thing I think is that there is a lack of adapting to the challenges that are facing us, in the sense that many of us are stuck in just seeing binary opposition in terms of the white society and the racism. Whereas I think we need to go beyond that and think in terms of abuse of power. What do I mean by that? That so many young people in the deprived areas are losing their lives on what is called black violence and crime. What we need to do is to teach our youths and other people who are in danger of falling into the life of crimes, how we can overcome the abuse of power, and how we can teach the values of life and really valuing ourselves and reappreciating what it is to belong to a community, to a country, or whatever.
Great, that's a very good narrative, and you can tell that you're very passionate about what you're currently doing. So I'm just going to pass over to you, Desiree. The question that I've got for you is, what is the role of location? What role does that play in the lives of our youths?
Do you know, I'm actually going to give myself as an example. When I left Africa and I moved to the UK, the one thing that I got from a lot of people from Zimbabwe was, come and live with us, come and stay within our community, because that's where you can, find jobs and things like that. But what happened is, as soon as I walked into that community, I realized that I was just being influenced by what was going on around. So there's a lot of young people that have a habit of drinking alcohol, going out at night, clubbing, doing all sorts of things. And if that is the norm for them, it becomes your norm in the end. And you begin to get influenced by your environment. And this is literally what happened to me. I had to then figure out a way to come out of that in order to pursue other routes. So in the same way, I think the issue with young people that they have right now, not just Black youth, but young people in general, is they're influenced by the environment. People often overlook the damage that your environment can do. There's positive and negative to both, but for the most part, especially when you're looking at deprived, environments, we often overlook the fact that those young people have less opportunity available to them. So if I compared young people in Hackney and if I compared young people in Chelsea, no disrespect to Chelsea, but this is what happens. They have, the young people from Chelsea have much more opportunity because of the networks, the associations that they have, the associations that their parents have. And so it plays to where it is that you're living.
So it definitely is
100%, 100%.
And do you agree with that as well, Sylvia?
That's a wonderful point Desiree is making. However, there is a caveat in the sense that those of us who are of African backgrounds, many of us have known poverty while we were growing up in Africa. However, we have like a lifestyle and a way of being and life lessons that are drilled into us in terms of trying to be the best that you can be, in terms of achieving your goals. And when we have children here, we lose the focus in terms of giving them that sense of direction, that sense of life purpose,
And
that
is
sense
yeah,
of...
can I just, do you think that's because access to things like amenities, food and all of that is easier here as compared to back home?
It's not so much that as the fact that many of us have been brainwashed into not valuing what we can teach to not only our children but also to this society. What do I mean by that? If you take the example of Asian communities, they have something that is called yoga. Yoga is no longer restricted to the Asian communities. It's something that originated there, but they have been able to package it and make it into a lifestyle that is applicable to everybody. And I tell you, that's why you are going to see, if you compare Asian communities with African communities, you go to Peckham, most shops are owned by Asians, whereas it is called an African market. That sense of purpose, that sense of belonging, and that sense of being grounded is what we are not giving our children. And it's not about a blame game. Yesterday, they were talking on TV about this young gentleman called Incognito, who was killed, a rapper drill. It shouldn't be that drill and the materialistic things that they are valuing should be what we see.
What's more important?
Exactly.
Yeah. So let's just hold that thought there, because I can see that you're really going into it, which is great. I'm just conscious that we've got quite a few questions to ask. So for you, Desiree, I guess the question is, let's take it back to, let's be a little bit more practical here. And if we were to kind of use London as a case study, you mentioned earlier on areas such as Hackney is obviously termed as one of the deprived areas. And then again, the question is it a case of we've got lots of council flats over there. There's lots of project buildings there. And so that's the reason it's been labelled as one of the deprived areas. You do often see youths ganging around areas rather than going to school. They just kind of feel okay to kind of gang. What are your thoughts about that? Is that the reason? Do you believe that's the reason why areas like Hackney and Dalston have been sort of labelled, Brixton have been labelled to be sort of like the disadvantaged areas?
That's a very good question, Joe. I think the answer is deeper than just a set of council flats. I think it's deeper than just a group of people that are hanging on the corner streets. I think it goes way back. And I think Sylvie alluded to that, our history. What is in our history? It started from 550 years ago when we were given the notion that we're less than.
Exactly.
And so it's something that plays on our mind. What is our identity? How do we see ourselves in community and in society? And I think what we've seen in places like Hackney with council flats and, you know, young boys standing on the corner, that's the fruit, not the root.
I believe that we need to have long-term programs that not only address the issue of hunger, the immediate needs, but also this educational purpose that should be really long-term. And it should be a matter of understanding that we cannot think that violence and it is restricted to deprived areas, because no matter what, sooner or later, these things reflect on the whole society.
Yeah, absolutely.
The whole society. And we really need to think of it in terms of investing in the young people, investing in our future.
Brilliant.
Otherwise, we are bound to repeat the
same
thing, like a cycle.
The cycle continues.
Yeah.
So over to you, Desiree. What are your thoughts about how we can eradicate or hopefully eradicate this issue?
Joe, in Africa, there's a saying, it takes a village to raise a child. And I don't think it should be restricted just to the raising of a baby that's just been born to somebody that goes to nursery. But I think we have a part to play as a community and as a society. I think it's not just trying to throw money at them or trying to throw youth centers at them. I think that there's a deeper issue. And for me, it's about how do we get our generation and the generation before to be a part of the solution. Everybody needs to be at the table and having a conversation about how to go about changing things. We know that it's the youth from Black communities. And so we need to have people from Black communities, the parents, the teachers, the elders, the priests, the pastors, the business owners, investors. Everybody needs to be at the table, including the youth, because today youth can surprise you. A lot of people, label them as entitled. But when you sit down and have a conversation with them, they actually know how to tackle their problems. What we've seen with the program that Sylvia and I are doing is that we've asked them to identify their own issues and their own challenges, and they've surprised us by giving us the lists of the things that they feel they're struggling with. But at the same time, they've come up with the solutions for those problems. The only thing they need now is the platform, the opportunity, the support, and the resources, and us coming around them as mentors to say, here you go fly.
I like how you kind of went into the mentor thing, because that kind of brings me to my next question. The question is it that the youths, especially Black youths, don't have enough mentors, people to look up to? Do you think that's why we're having an increase in this whole fiasco?
150%. I can speak for myself as well. Growing up as a young person, I feel if I had more guidance, I would have chosen different paths. Not that the path I'm on now is difficult or the wrong one per se, but I think I would have made better choices. I think. And I think the young people are calling out from that. In the last session we had with the young people, we had on the 27th of July, they needed to come up with a theme for the next hackathon. And what they decided on was education and mentorship. Mentorship being a big part of it. Because again, they've said, even if we have the degrees, it doesn't mean we know exactly where to go. We need the guidance as well. So mentorship is a huge, huge part of, trying to fix this problem.
Whilst it's amazing to hear that you guys are doing a great job, I guess the question I'll be asking you, based on the knowledge and experience you have, do you believe the government in those local areas are doing something?
Uh, yes, I think it's a complex question, but I will restrict myself to three key main points. Number one, of course, the government and the society as a whole need to acknowledge the disadvantaged environment and put resources and try to help these young people obtain better conditions. But number two, I think we also need to instill a sense of hope and purpose. The fact is, based on my experience working with young people, what I usually tell them is if you are born poor, it is an opportunity for you to raise yourself. If you are in a family where nobody has gone to the university, it's a wonderful opportunity for you to be the first to go to university. But we have lost this sense of educating our youth to strive because no society, no family, nothing is perfect.
So do you think
beyond
that, so what I'm hearing is a lot of the problem starts from the home?
There is home, but there is also the fact that the society as a whole has lost a sense of direction and the sense of purpose. As Desiree was saying earlier, it takes a village to raise a child. But if the society in which we are living hasn't really got the patterns that are ensuring and showing young people that they are values just as human beings, how can we actually teach them respect for human lives? And this is linked to the third point I wanted to make, that we need to teach our young people a sense of belonging. Those who are coming from ethnic minorities, a lot of us, we maybe unconsciously we teach our children to see this society as outsiders, as though they haven't got a stake in it. Many of us grow up here, we die here, we are buried here. This is our home. We need to make the most in terms of achieving what we want, but also leaving a legacy.
So I kind of like how we've tackled this, but as I'm hearing both of you, I sort of feel like whilst it's the society's responsibility, I almost feel like as an individual, if I was a youth, like you clearly said, Sylvia, I should be thinking of how I can be better.
Exactly.
So I'd like to believe there's somebody watching this right now and is a youth and probably struggling because, you know what, I live in a community where it's disadvantaged. I don't think I can be any better than who my parents were. Now, I don't want them to feel that it's solely the responsibility of the society for them to get to where they need to get to.
Yeah.
Ultimately, they need to work on themselves as well. And I think there is this African culture proverbs that says, when you're born, you have to rebirth yourself, basically. So regardless of whether or not you've been born into a circumstance, you have to almost snap out of that. So let's talk about that a little bit. How can the youths, how can they help themselves? How can a youth watching right now help? What are the steps that they can take to help themselves?
I think we are being a bit harsh. If you don't present models, patterns of behavior, how are they going to know what to take home? I believe
there may not be enough.
Yes.
Right. But there are models out there. There are a few people. Now, it could be a case where you can't relate to them because of their story and backgrounds are different. But there are still people that are out there doing stuff within the Black community that people can still look up to.
Absolutely. So that links to what Desiree said earlier, that we need to have channels and platforms where we linked the successful people with those struggling youths. Because right now, what I usually see in my experience is usually pockets of success. Of course, I can name successful Black designers, successful African filmmakers, successful African actors, and so on, and business people. But is there a sense of being able to connect to those people to help you choose a fantastic path in life? This is what I am saying. What we need are channels of education and also of enlightenment and also of fulfillment, that we know that whatever we achieve, we have to leave a legacy. This is what I think has been lacking in many of our communities. And it starts with the family, as you said, that if you are not teaching your children that through their success, they also contribute to the success of the family, how are they going to be able to value who they are? So it's a circle.
I agree. So I've got the last question that we've got right now.
Already?
And I'm just going to have to read this out to you. How can we see, and this is just bringing together everything that we've talked about, albeit I've asked this question in a different way. How can we see a total eradication of life sentence of poverty and exclusion, especially in the place of our children's education?
Oh, wow. That is a bomb. Do you know what? It starts with education.
Exactly.
It starts with education. And I'm not talking about schooling. There's a difference between being schooled and being educated. Schooling is all about the books and teaches you what to think, but not how to think. Society has not given us enough tools to think about how to handle, handle challenges, because they will exist. But in order to eradicate, I'm not too sure, because even in the Bible, it says the poor will always be with you, which is a sentence in a way. What I believe is we've got to educate one another. We've started, but there's a whole lot to it.
We need a lot more of things like this. We need a lot more of education. So pretty much
100%.
It's all down to you and I. You've got one more thing to say, Sylvia?
Yes. What I would like to end up with is acknowledge that there has never ever been a perfect age or a perfect century. There has always been challenges, but what we need to do is to come up with wonderful responses to current challenges. And these are human problems. It can be done. It's just about knowing that the challenges that we face are nothing really that has not been seen before, but we need to rethink and reinvent ourselves for the 21st century. And number two, as Desiree was saying earlier, that it's really about empowering these young people and knowing that there is a future for them.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Just one final thing. I know I did say that. One final thing.
I love it.
You know, whilst you were talking, Sylvia, I'm thinking there's somebody out there thinking they would like to start what you're doing, but they just don't know how to go about it. If I was to give you a 30-second pitch just to speak to someone who's watching who would like to do something similar, targeted towards the youth, what would you be saying to them?
Get in touch with local youth services. Normally that's the first place to go, because there's a lot of charities and NGOs that are trying to reach out to young people. So that's my first point of call. Get in touch with the local youth service. If that doesn't help, go on to LinkedIn, look for, type in keywords for youth services, trying to help people. There's ways to get career advice. Feel free to go on to LinkedIn.
And feel free to contact us as well. We are always open to partnerships, and we will be really very happy to be able to expand the programs we are doing in Hackney to the whole of the UK, and why not the whole world, really.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you, Joe.
I need to go back now to think how I can add more value.
You already are.
Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you for having us.
A pleasure. In order to help to reduce the challenges that young people face in low social economic areas in the UK and abroad, the work starts with you and I. If you have been affected by today's episode, please email us at info@joemaxwellshow.com. We would like to hear from you. And don't forget to follow us on all our social media pages at joemaxwellshow.com. And that's it for us on today's episode. Until same time next week, I am your host, Jo Maxwell.